Okay, welcome everybody. This is really quite an amazing event I think we're about to launch into for 24 hours of celebration of Eric Grimm's life and legacy. So it's a great privilege to be able to start things, I guess, from over here in the Australian and New Zealand neck of the woods, where we'll talk about the kind of work we're doing here that in many ways reflects some of the work that Eric was really keenly interested in and in fact has influenced our side of the world quite substantially. So really, wonderful to see everybody here. And I'm really looking forward to a really amazing 24 hours. I'm not sure I'll be able to do the 24 hours given that it's 3 p.m. over here, but some of you may, but of course this is being recorded and the recordings will be made available afterwards. Anything I say will be taken ad infinitum and forever be there. So, and that just reminds me to some of the common etiquette and courtesy issues about being part of a global Zoom meeting. I'm sure we're all aware of those now, but please be respectful of everybody. There's a chat room there for people to put their comments in and so on, so please do that, and let's have a great meeting. Just to show you the schedule for this first session, timing is the kind of Eastern Australian time, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and this first 10 minutes I'm just going to briefly introduce what we're doing and a couple of reflections on Eric and his influence, particularly on me and other parts of Australia, I guess. But also in introducing Annika Herbert, who's sitting next to me. Annika's working directly on our Neotoma database uploads for the Australian region in particular. This is a project that in many ways has emerged because of the influence that Eric has had over the years. So following that, of course, we'll have a couple of presentations, one by Michael Fletcher, another by Matt Preble, both talking about this intriguing issue of the Lachamp event, or this event that really has come to the fore over the last few months because of a couple of papers that have emerged, one in particular documenting the impact and speculating on the impact of the Lachamp event around the globe based on information coming out of primarily New Zealand and tree ring records. But yeah, we're going to have a little sort of session looking at some of the footprint of that, if you like, across our region in Australia and the Pacific. And then we'll finally talk a little bit more about the actual Neotoma project we have going in Australia and driving the Indo-Pacific pollen database. And so hopefully Jeff Hope will come on board. Jeff has worked with Eric for many years and will give some insights into that long-term relationship. And then Annika and myself, of course, detailing the state of the Neotoma and Indo-Pacific pollen database as we see it at the moment and the vision for the future of that. And then by that time there, whatever it is in the world, we'll have a break. So really to begin with, I'd just like to, initially welcome everybody, and it's common practice here in Australia and other parts of the world to acknowledge the traditional owners on whose land we meet. And here, as you'll see in my tagline, we're on Ngunnawal and Ngambri land. These are traditional owners of a land that was never really ceded in Australia. And this is an important thing to acknowledge. And I guess wherever you sit around the world, it's actually an important thing to think about that deeper history. This is our bread and butter, of course, that's what we do. But the people that were on this land before the modern era is definitely something to think about, and the consequences of the many changes that have been wrought upon the landscapes in which we study. I was really privileged to get to know Eric for a number of at least 2 decades, I guess, working on compiling databases, and not just in Australia, but in China as well. And here's one of those meetings where Eric would be the keynote speaker, and he's put a lot of effort right around the globe. But certainly my involvement with this sort of effort is particularly in Australia and in China as well, visiting China, working with Chinese colleagues. And this is an example in 2008 when we were working there and sharing our ideas on how to build out the sort of Australasian database effort. Eric also visited Australia a number of times, and this is one meeting we organised in 2014 where Eric came over and ran one of his iconic Tilia neotoma workshops. We had lots of field work, and of course here's Jeff Hope and Matt Preble, and Jeff and Eric botanising. This is one of the great pleasures that Eric would partake in any time he was overseas. And yeah, I know Jeff and Eric had many hours looking at plants and talking about the paleoecology of the regions they were in, when these meetings occurred. This was a really important meeting, and one that in many ways kickstarted some of the neotoma upload and database development in the last few years in Australia. And of course, many other meetings, and all of us, of course, are familiar with meeting Eric at whether it be INQA or other quaternary-based or palynological-based meetings. This is one in 2016 we're at in Salvador in Brazil. Really fun meeting, and the benefits of getting together, as we all remember in the past, are many, and it's sort of something we're all very keen to get back into, I guess, but that may be some time ahead, given the current events happening around the globe from the pandemic point of view. But these are great memories and important memories to recall. And of course, most recently, before the pandemic, we'd organised AQUA, or Australasian Quaternary Association meeting in Cairns, Atherton, in northeastern Australia, in the rainforest. That was to be held in the middle of last year, but of course that was cancelled. But we were able to reformat and reshape what we were doing, and we ended up running one of the Neotoma Tilia workshops over Zoom, and Eric was gracious enough, as always, to actually come in to that meeting quite late at night, of course, but certainly willing and sort of selflessly giving his time and energies into training some new stewards, discussing the issues we have with our database. And of course, alongside Jeff Hope, who had a lot of influence and energy and input into this development of the Indo-Pacific pollen database as well. So both of these VIPs, I guess you would call them, coming into the workshop was a great asset, and it's a really wonderful thing to recall the kind of important influence that Eric and others have worked alongside Eric have had in this region. So today, before we get into the first talk, which will be given by Mike Fletcher, just wanted to introduce the speakers and the contributors to these talks. As I mentioned, we're focusing on a theme of initially the Lechamp geomagnetic excursion, and both Michael Fletcher and Matt Preble. Michael's been working on sites down in Tasmania, in particular. He'll be able to elucidate some of the amazing new sites and records that are emerging from there related to this subject. Matthew working out in the Pacific, and again, these remarkable sites that people have come across in recent years. Be able to present that, and then followed that. I hope Jeff will be online by then, and Annika and myself will be presenting this sort of summary of the long-term development of the Indo-Pacific pollen database, and that began certainly back in the 90s, but has been developing ever since. Geoff's played a major role in that. So it's 10 minutes past the hour. So I'm going to stop sharing here and pass it over to Mike Fletcher,